thanks for doing this. I really
Of
appreciate
course.
it.
Of course. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to start off, man, you've cast so many incredible things. I mean, your track record is uh, fantastic. Has there ever
That's
been
very kind.
anything, has there ever been anything when where you're like, oof, what happened? I mean, you don't have to tell me what it is, but I can't imagine that you even have one.
Honestly, I really don't because even if there's something in my head, but even if I felt that way about it, I really, fight and are proud of the cast that I put together. So if I look at it just in that perspective of like, well, did I do my job and assemble the best actors that I could? I feel like I do, and that I don't have a lot of regrets in that way. So I'm looking at it through a different filter, a little bit, but I try never to hire and or advocate for people that I don't think are right for the job.
Yeah, yeah, I would imagine your success at doing a job is different from my success, me watching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hopefully those two things align. But yes, I think, and believe me, if I combed over the resume, I could absolutely go, oh, this didn't work. But so much of that is out of anybody's hands, really. A director can make a brilliant film, and if there's a mass shooting on the weekend that it opens, nobody sees it, and or a snowstorm or a hurricane, all those things. It always amazes me how many things have to go absolutely right for something to open and perform and find success. It's really mind-boggling.
Yeah, yeah, and Ghostbusters this weekend, which
Yes.
yeah, it did really well. I saw it. I thought it was great.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I have not seen it yet. Reviews seem, mostly positive from what I've read. And we, made nearly what we did last opening. So I hope it's got some legs to it.
I love how you keep track of like the figures and all that too.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, I care about the people that I make projects with. And so there's very few, if any, where I'm just kind of like, I don't give a shit what happens to them. I can, somewhat mistakenly consider people that I work with friends. And so it matters to me how their projects do.
Yeah. Let's talk about lessons in chemistry, man.
Yeah.
Another good one to to
Thank you.
on your resume. So was like Brie Larson already attached to this when you got
Yeah,
it?
yes, Brie was because she was a producer on it. So she had worked on the project for a while before I came on, but there was nobody else, just Brie.
Now, who comes to you and says, "Hey, I want you to cast this"?
It was very kind of I'm gonna tell you. I mean, it was a little bit of Michael Costigan, but it was really Hannah Fidel, who was the original showrunner and kind of producer and was involved in the project. Which I subsequently found out that you just brought up about Jason Reitman. She's friends with Jason. So I don't know if they ever spoke about me to one another or not, but Hannah is the one that called me and said, we have this project. Would you be interested? And I read it and loved it. And then subsequently, I did worked on something else with Hannah. So it was really exciting to feel like a creative person didn't have one but two things that they were interested in working on with me. So yeah, that's how that started.
And I read that this was cast almost entirely over Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, we were in that time frame, so
Okay.
much of what we had to do was just be able to work off of Zoom. And I have mixed feelings about it. I think as many actors do, as many other people do. TV has really kind of, in my experience, embraced it because there's so many people involved and so many different camps. I think they've come to it in a different way of like, well, this is a real time saver. I can go back to a writer's room. I can, meet with people that are not even in this city, those kinds of things. So it's worked out well for that. There's still feature directors that really want to be in the room with people. And there will be the option of, if there's callbacks, if there's a chemistry read, the people still do that in live in person. But yeah, we did pretty much everything. I think everything over Zoom for lessons.
How do you like that? Because I'm an actor as well, and
Yeah.
I would prefer like I love doing it over Zoom because I don't have to leave the house. But
Yeah.
like self tapes, I would
Yeah.
much rather like have an audition on Zoom. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Because can you
yeah.
still get that sort of your energy's up and you know what I mean? You feel it more.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I'm sure the adrenaline mixture is higher when, you're still in front of people. I tried to, it's funny, it used to be such a thing for New York actors or actors in London, and where people would say, "Oh, I hate self-taping." And I would just remind them and I understand it. The only thing I can say to people, though, there is a quality of control that you have as an actor that you never have in a room. Whether a producer or a director gets a phone call or texting, or somebody sneezes in the room in the middle of your audition, whatever that is, once you walk in that door, you're out of control, right? And you hope that casting director's there to protect it and create an environment that works for you. But if you look at it as taping, you can do that 15 times until you get the right tape that you want to send. You can
Mhm.
do it, you know what I mean? So I think
Oh, I've
there
been
is a
there.
lot of
Yeah.
negative, but there is that flip side too, that it gives an actor control over their product and what they want seen, as opposed to haphazardly, going into a room that may or may not be friendly, may not be conducive to creating a perfect moment.
I want to ask you about, is it Aja Naomi King?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Asian Naomi King,
Yeah,
yes.
she apparently she came in and wowed you guys, and that the showrunner created an even bigger character for her. Can
Yeah,
you spend time with a
yeah.
different one?
That happened with both with Asia as well as Patrick Walker. They both kind of like came out of the wings strong, And I mean, Asia Naomi King is just such a brilliant actress to begin with, but it really did turn into more of a complete ensemble once they started to write other storylines. Asia's storyline and Patrick Walker's storyline was not really as strong. And when I first read it, it was different. It was not there really. It was certainly a B or C level, storyline. But it really got elevated once, we cast those actors, and the new producing set kind of and showrunner started to take over and write towards it.
And then also Alice Halsey. I mean, she seemed like she was the actual child of these two actual characters.
I
I mean,
mean, I
just
think she is
wonderful.
such a little discovery. Jennifer Cram did the project with me, and Jen and I have worked together for off and on for almost 19 years as my associate. And she's a filmmaker in her own right, but she came back to do this with me, and I couldn't have been more just blown away by how talented she was, and she captured Alice captured that exactly what you said, the brilliance and yet the heart of both of them. you know she was almost a little automatron of them, but then you cared about her so much. I thought she was fantastic in the show.
Yeah, I mean, how close to real life is she? I mean, she was just blew my mind.
Yeah, I mean, she is a little close to that in real life, probably not quite as verbose in that way, but her language skills are really good, and she's a really smart little actress. And yeah, I loved her in it. I thought she and Brie had a really beautiful little chemistry together.
Uh, how do you cast a dog's voice? I mean, BJ Novak. I mean, so heartbreakingly good. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I know. I've had to do it before in like a dog's journey and other things. There was but this, we started talking about ideas, and I forget who had a connection to that, but somebody reached out and they were like, yeah, it's kind of the perfect dog voice for the, for Lewis's character to have. And yeah, I thought it was so amazing. But animals to me get to me 90% more than humans a lot of the time. So whenever that device is used, I find it so, moving in a lot of different, either funny or, heartbreaking or, charming to me. It's just charming.
Yeah, I mean, such a that just oh my gosh, yeah, that episode
Yeah.
just oof, God, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't see it coming. It's funny. Somebody in the office also had not seen it and recently watched it, and they were like, "You guys, you didn't tell me that that happened." We were like, "Shocker." Yeah, it did come out of the blue, and it was such an instrumental moment, in obviously in the whole series. But you were really rooting for them, and when that went sideways, yeah, it's devastating.
For like the day players and things like that, when casting something that's set in like the 50s, I feel
Yeah.
like there's like a certain tone that people just automatically are ingrained in their head.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
did you have trouble finding that, or do you sort of emphasize that on the sides or anything like that, or?
No, I think it's a matter of searching. It really is. Some people get it, some people don't. It amazes me at times how people don't get the tone of things, and as actors, it's like, well, you really got to watch something if you don't know the tone of it and it's specialized in that way to get a feel of it, to get a sense of it. It would just help. And so I think it's, some people it comes to innately, and some people have to find it a little bit more. So, whether the look is right and you work back to the tone, or the tone is perfect and you work towards the look, you just keep searching until you find it.
Like with self-tapes, when you saw that look or maybe the tone, would you go back and say, "Hey, this person is really
Yes.
good, but can you sort of modify that?"
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somebody that you see potential in either category, kind of, we would go back and then give notes and say, remember that it's 1950s, or remember the relationship between you and a man in that world. You know what I mean? It was very different than looking at it through, 21st century eyes. And so we would remind people of that and ask for retapes and stuff like that. So we try to still give that feedback and direction along to actors when we feel like they're really right and just something's missing.
When you first get a self-tape, I mean, how far into it do I mean, do you watch the whole thing, or some tapes you're just like, okay, next?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. On some, you usually watch most of it. You know what I mean? I'll usually, honestly, I'll usually look for a few specific moments that really matter in the scene to me. Whether it's a moment of a joke, whether it's a moment of real connection, or, even if it's as simple as a one-liner, if people are making too much out of it, and then you know that it's not going to work. Somebody that just does it freely and without too much effort, you look for those kind of clues, and hopefully you get drug in and connect to everybody's reads. But yeah, there are some that you just go, nah, they didn't get it. They didn't understand that, that thing that I'm looking for.
I read that you were trained in acting.
Yes, I have a BFA in acting, and then I went to study at Circle in the Square in New York for
I love that.
graduate studies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a
That's
former.
so not so. Did you like get up and like do anything on New York, or like what like
I
how
did
far
I
did
did a
you
bunch of
get?
day players stuff in New York, but and like under fives and things like that on Guiding Light and shows like that. And then I went out for a commercial audition, and it was a takeoff of the original Top Gun. So that tells you how long ago that was, Lance. And I remember sitting in a cockpit of a mocked up fighter jet, and they had like 5 or 6 cameras all around you. And I remember walking out of that audition and going, man, I can't do this. You know, theater was never a problem for me. The performance aspect and that was never an issue. Having a camera gaze upon me and having the confidence to hold that, not something I possessed. And so I was like, yeah, this is not. And then I was also just honest, like, well, who am I going to play? You know what I mean? I am not going to be Tom Cruise. So if I'm somebody's friend, somebody is this, and I just thought, yeah, I don't know that I want to eat white rice for years to be able to pursue this. Because at that time too, the idea of repertory actors still did exist, and you could make a career out of it. Now I don't know how people do it trying to be a rep actor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm acting as well still, but I'm doing this now because I have
Yeah.
2 kids to feed, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, and that's the reality of it, And for me, remember, I was in New York and I got offered a touring show of three Shakespeare plays in rep. And they were like, okay, so it'll be $300 a week, and we'll travel around in a van, and you'll share hotel rooms and this and that. And I thought, I can't even pay my rent in my New York apartment at $300 a week. And I just thought, yeah, this I can't. I wasn't driven enough or dedicated enough, I guess, to really suffer, for it, suffer for the art. And luckily, through a not a direct route, but years later, finding casting was really a godsend because it was a real mixture of getting to still work with actors, still look at a script and break it down and talk about characters and be involved in the artistry of it, but also the business side of it.
I just have a couple more questions because
Yeah.
God knows I can keep you on here all
No, no,
day.
no, no, that's okay. Go ahead.
Um, for uh, for self tapes, what do you sort of constantly see where you're like, no, I wish you guys would stop that?
Well, some agents put on long, long openings of just their agents, like a slate of the agency. I'm like, okay, can we get by the agencies thing? I am not a big one for rules. This came up with somebody else not too long ago when we were talking about it. In that, I love actors. I think it is a non-exact science, right? And the freedom with which actors do things is part of the creative process. So as long as it's not absolutely against what I'm looking for in a character or behavior that's out of the realm of being, socially accepted, I'm kind of interested in what people do. I'm interested in, will they change the camera angle? Do they know how close to be to the camera, how far away? I mean, certainly there are certain things where it's like, well, if you can't hear somebody, that's not going to work. But, for the most part, I don't have a lot of rules about that. Um, you know, Even in formal tapes, and sometimes you go, oh my God, that person's really got something. They have a spark. There's something there. So it doesn't really matter to me as much of the form as it is content, you know?
Mhm. I do a lot of demo reels for actors and like air
Mm,
checks and things like that.
yeah,
When you request to see somebody's tape or clips or things, what
yeah.
are you sort of mainly looking? Do you want to see like the whole scene or just like things to clip it down to feature them more? Or
It's funny. I think to feature them, when it goes too long into a scene, you're kind of like, okay, I get it, but it should be moments they're having. I'm not going to get involved in the story of the scene. Another thing I think people do at times is that they can have too much for their own good, too much of a intro again, but like of a montage of them, right? Running or music. And when you're showing that to a director, They're like, what am I looking at? Let's go get to the. So I think you start with getting right to it, show a scene that shows you doing something that you're proud of or what you have, and make it the best product to sell yourself,
Mm.
not the projects that you were in, not music, not fancy editing, but it's about, here's this actor. Do you find them intriguing? Are you drawn in by who they are? Do you think they're right for this character? That's what you want to get out of it. And I think, um, actors can get misled by people making it more of a production in and of itself. And directors just don't stay with it that long. They
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah. That's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you want to go in, start, grab them by the throat and leave. I mean, that's the point of it. Because they don't have time and they won't sit through an entire tape anyway,
Yeah.
90% of the time.
My final question is, you've probably seen it all in like casting rooms and auditions.
Yeah.
What is like the craziest thing that's ever happened to you in an audition room?
There are plenty of those. Either actors, grabbing my crotch or spitting in my face or, those
You're
kinds of,
hired.
yeah. But or kissing me or, whatever. Like, but that's not what stays with me. What stays with me really is when I feel like I'm in the presence of an artist. And those are the moments where, if I even think about them, I still get chills. That you just realize, oh, this person's really special. There's something really that I can't touch, I can't talk about, I can't equate, but I feel it. And those are the things that I sit in rooms when somebody does something unexpected, says a line differently than how 80 other people that read that line read it, thinks about a different moment in a different way. Those are the things that you sit there and go, holy shit, that's amazing. And those are the kind of moments that I love and keep me coming back for more. The rest of it is, funny in hindsight and or oh my God, can you believe? But really those things, again, they're just actors trying to be real in the moment, and so I give them that grace, or I at least try and give them that grace.
Yeah, that was so nice. Yeah, I love that. By the way, congratulations on Oppenheimer.
Thank you
Uh,
very much.
I feel like if this had been the inaugural year of the casting Oscar, you would have been a shoo-in.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Yeah, a year late, but I am excited for all the people behind me and that I work with, and it's about time that we're recognized, and I'm thrilled for the future of casting directors.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much, John, for doing this for me. I
My
really
pleasure. Thank you,
appreciate it.
Lance. Thanks for asking.